Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. We're going to talk about making the leap from good to great. And this idea was inspired by a couple different people. One is Jim Collins, who wrote one of my favorite books literally called Good to Great. It's really about companies, publicly traded companies, how they go from doing their thing, but continuing to rise for many, many years on end, even as CEOs change and the world changes, but the company stays great. He did a study on that, and even though I'm not and don't work at a publicly traded company, the concepts in that book can be applied to an individual person. And also listen to one of my favorite podcasters, and used to be sports writer but now podcaster, Bill Simmons. He talks about all the time making the leap. When players make that leap from being a good player, solid player, to being a superstar, how do those things happen? So before I even get into this, I want to tell you that I got a text line that you can text me at. The best thing that resonates with you from this video, I want you to text me and tell me what it is. The number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. So really what got me thinking about this, on top of Jim Collins and Bill Simmons, was thinking about Jay-Z. Everybody knows Jay-Z, right? Maybe you know him as Beyonce's husband. But I remember when Jay-Z came out with his third album, which was called Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. And on that album, Jay-Z had his most records sold. I think still to this day, his highest selling album was Volume 2. And on that album, Jay-Z went from being a rap star to being a pop superstar. And I always have believed, I never met Jay-Z, I don't know Jay-Z. But I always say, if I ever meet Jay-Z, I have some specific questions I would ask him about that period and that album and the things that he did. Because one thing that I know for sure, and that's what we're going to talk about here, is that going from being good at what you do to being amazing at what you do is something that has to be done intentionally. And that's what I want to talk to you about here today. 3 specific things about making that leap from good to great. Number 1, understand that it is not a requirement for you to be great. And this is something that, there are many people talk about this. I heard Michael Jordan talk about it, how he always said, me being as great as I became, he didn't actually use those words, but him saying me getting to that highest level was not about me comparing myself to Patrick Ewing or Charles Barkley or Clyde Drexler or Magic Johnson. It wasn't me comparing myself to them. Maybe when we were talking about winning, like getting the championships and stuff, but really on a day-to-day basis, it was about me pushing myself as hard as I could push myself, harder than anybody else could ever push me. It's really about him looking at himself is the point. It wasn't about what somebody else said or what the critics going to say or what somebody wrote in the newspaper back in the days of people reading newspapers. It was about how I felt about myself. That is a choice that you have to make. Same thing that Jay-Z did, and same thing that many others have done when they make that leap from good to great. It's not about the externalities of the rest of the world. It's really about ourselves. And understand that you don't have to choose to do it. If you're good at what you do, you could be good with being good. It's kind of like when people talk about, Kobe and Shaq. For those of you who know basketball, everybody knows who Kobe and Shaq are. And Shaquille O'Neal has even said it himself. I've read Shaq's books, and he's talked about it. He said, look, I was good enough and dominant enough to win the championships that I won, and he still calls himself the most dominant big man ever, which he has a claim, he has a stake to that claim, and won his championships. He's a legendary player, Hall of Famer. Everybody knows his name based on what he did on the basketball court. But he says, did I leave some success on the court that I could have got had I worked a little bit harder? Had I been as driven as Kobe? Could I have been a lot better player? Or maybe not a lot better, but at least a little bit better, and won a couple more championships? Probably. And he admits it. And if somebody like Kobe Bryant has even said himself, listen, if Shaq had worked as hard as I worked, we would have won 8 championships. We would have won 10 championships because he just didn't want it as bad as I wanted it. And that led to the breakup of Kobe and Shaq. Kobe wanted to get to that leap of being great, and he was willing to do the extra work for it. He made that choice, whereas Shaq was good with being very, very good without being, he was good enough to be great without even trying. He would have been, I don't know, what's the next level after great? Shaq would have been that if he had the drive, but he just didn't have it. And that was okay with him. And I'm not saying that to condemn Shaq. I'm here to let you know that maybe you're good with that too. Maybe you're good with just getting to a certain point, and then you can just cruise by at that point. You're making money, you're known, you're respected, you're recognized, and that's good with you. Some people want more than that, and it's an internal thing. Again, this is not an external thing. It's not about what everybody else says. This is about what you are saying when you look at yourself. Because you could be doing good enough just looking at, where you're at, and you don't even have to do any extra hard work. So that's the first thing. You do not have to do this. Number 2, understand that making this leap has nothing to do with skill. Yes, you heard me correctly. This has nothing to do with skill. And a person who talks about this, the best way that I've heard it articulated outside of myself would be Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins talks about this in his Unleash the Power Within. I don't know if he still uses the same materials that he's always used when he does his conferences or on any of his audio books. He talks about this all the time. He says, listen, making the jump from being really good or like excellent, he says, is like there's people who are terrible or poor at what they do. Then there's like people who are good. Then it's excellent. Excellent is like the all-stars. But then outstanding, he says, poor is down here. Then really good is here. Then excellent is here. But outstanding is only a little bit higher. So excellence is right here. Outstanding is like right here. You could barely even see my hand moving, right? It's just a little bit different. And he says the difference between excellent and outstanding is not a skill difference. The difference between somebody being Shaq and Kobe is not so much that Kobe was that much more skilled than Shaq. Now, it's hard to compare them, but you understand the gist of what I'm saying here. Is a decision. The decision that Shaq made was, I'm here and I'm good with that. The decision Kobe made was, I'm here, I'm not good with that. That's the difference. That's the only difference between the two of them. Now, I'm not talking about their footwork and jump shots and how many points they had and stats and advanced analytics and all that. I'm talking about the decision. Being outstanding versus being excellent is just a matter of, do you make the decision to do it or do you not? What made Michael Jordan as great as he was yes, he had skill and he could jump and he could shoot and his abilities that people like to compare. But what made him outstanding was a decision that he made that I'm going to take it to a different level. This is the key to making that leap. The leap is a choice. Again, as I told you on point number 1, you don't have to do this. You choose to do this, but you do have to make the choice to do it. And it's a commitment that you have to stick to that is not as easy as it sounds when you're excited and motivated and talking about it. It's something that you're doing on a long-term basis. So the second thing you got to get is that this is a choice you have to make and it has nothing to do with your skill set. Now, do skills play a role in it? Yes. Are the people that we call great who made that leap? Is Tony Robbins great at what he does? Was Michael Jordan great? Was Kobe great? Are these people, was Jay-Z great at what he did? Of course. All of these people are great at what they do. Do they have a high level of skill? Yes. Understand that the skill comes after the decision. This is what we talk about when I tell you about this book right here, The Mirror of Motivation. I tell you the first thing is the being, then the doing, then the having. What did I just tell you? Kobe Bryant, the being is, I want to take that leap to the highest possible level of excellence. The being comes first, then the skills come. Then you get the result. Not the skill, then the being, then the result. It doesn't work like that. So the first thing is you must make the decision to do it. Then the skills will come after it. And this is the part that a lot of people really get misconstrued and confused in life. And the third thing is this. And again, what we're talking about here today is making that leap from being good to being great. The third thing you got to understand is that this leap is not something that just happens to you. All right, this is not something that just occurs out of nowhere. This is a decision, and the leap is possible as long as you choose to make the decision. But understand that this decision is a lot more work than it looks like from the outside looking in. And that's why the decision is not you saying it. It's not about you writing it down. It's not about you posting it on your wall. It's not about you telling all your friends. This is a commitment. And this is something that I tell people all the time. A decision is not real until you put some action behind it. And I'm pausing there just to let that sink in. It's not a real decision until you put some real action behind it. Until you're really doing something that reflects that decision that you made, it ain't a decision. It's just you talking shit. And a lot of people talk a lot of shit on social media these days. But are they actually doing what they're talking about? Probably not. And how can I say that? Because if you were really doing it, you wouldn't have to say anything. You'd just be doing it. All that being said, we don't even have to say nothing else. Let's recap these points. Making that leap from being good to being great. Number one thing to understand is that you do not have to do this. You do not have to make the leap from good to good. If you're already good, you're already making money, people already recognize you and respect you for what you do, you can stay there and be good with that for the rest of your career, the rest of your life, and you don't need anything else that can be fine with you. Number two, making that leap has nothing to do with skills. Making the leap is a decision first, the skills come second, then the results come third. And the third thing is, this is a decision that you must make. It's not about writing it down or posting it or telling your friends. It's a decision that you have to make that you are going to take things to the next level. And it's not a real decision until you start taking action that reflects the decision that you made or that you claim you made. All that said, if you have not yet claimed your free copy of this book, The Mirror of Motivation, I'm going to tell you why you want to get this book for free. It's free. I still got to tell you why to get it because of what I just said. This book is not about giving you more skills. It is not about motivating you. It is not about me hyping you up. It is about me giving you the framework so that you know who you want to be as a person. You understanding who do I want to be, and once you get that clear, then the actions will automatically flow from that, and then you'll get the results that you want in your life. The link is right down below. It is mirrorofmotivation.com. The book's free. All you do is cover the shipping and text me. My number is 305-384-6894. Tell me the most valuable thing that's resonated with you from this particular video. Again, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.